Hi, I'm Jillian. Thank you for joining me. I overheard one of my students tell another student that annotations for an annotated bibliography are basically the same as abstracts. Well, they aren't really, but the difference is a bit nuanced, so I thought it was worth making a video to explain. Why would my student think they were the same? Well, basically, they're the same length, between 150 and 250 words, give or take, in 1 to 2 small paragraphs, and they're both a type of summary of the resource, typically a journal article, a book chapter, or a book. But that's where the similarities end and the differences begin. Abstracts and annotations differ in the purposes they serve. Abstracts are created by authors for readers to tell the readers what the resource is about and to help them decide if the resource is going to be relevant to their own work and if it should be fully consulted. They're published along with the resource, so they appear in databases and indexes. They're basically for public use. Annotations, on the other hand, are created by readers for themselves to help them understand and engage with the resource. So they're a tool typically used by students and researchers in higher education. They're not published with the resource because the author has no part in the annotations, so they're not found in databases or indexes. They're really for private use, not for public use. The formatting is also different. Abstracts generally appear individually at the top of their resource, which is the article or the chapter. They don't include the resource citation because they're actually embedded in the resource itself. Annotations, however, appear all together in an alphabetized bibliography, alphabetized by the author's last name, with their full citation as a type of heading. So hence, an annotated bibliography. And incidentally, a bibliography is not the same as a reference list, which is used in APA citation style, or a works cited list, which is MLA citation style. Both of those lists include only the resources that were directly cited or used in the text of the work, whereas a bibliography is a listing of all the resources that the author consulted, whether they were directly cited and used or not. The focus of abstracts and annotations is also different. Abstracts tend to focus only on content, so they wouldn't include anything that is not presented in the resource itself. Whereas annotations will also include some contextual information and some evaluative comments. Now, before we get into all of that, I want to note that there are different types of annotations with different requirements for what's to be included. In coursework, your instructors will set out their own criteria. What I'm choosing to include here is the most sophisticated and comprehensive version of annotations that I know of. But if this is for coursework, obviously follow what your instructor has laid out for you. As promised, here are my 4 steps for creating annotations. Identify, contextualize, summarize, and evaluate. Now, you don't have to organize your annotation in this order. You just want to cover off all of these areas. Let's have a closer look at each one. Identify. So in this step, you want to identify the resource that you are annotating with its full citation according to the preferred format for your field of study or as per your course instructions. So this could be APA format, which is typically used in the social sciences, MLA in Chicago, typical for humanities, and AMA, medical sciences and medicine. Purdue University's online writing lab is a great resource for this. You also want to identify the nature of the resource or the type of resource you're annotating, the purpose it claims to serve, and its intended audience. Here are a bunch of examples. The next step is to contextualize or provide contextual information about this resource. So start by asking what perspectives the author is declaring or acknowledging as underpinning this work. This might include assumptions, biases, personal opinions that the author notes, guiding theories, philosophical perspectives or paradigms, and the author's particular stance or approach. All of this impacts how you as a reader understand and engage with the resource. Also want to provide contextual information about the author. You might want to note their geographical location and the time period in which they lived and worked. You might want to note their general field of expertise, their professional situation, titles, qualifications, credentials, awards, reputation, and experiences, and their publication history. Not all of this will be relevant or easily accessible, so you decide what will be helpful to you and your work. Next is summarize. Indicate how the resource is organized. So you might want to note the thesis, the research problem or hypothesis. You might want to note the conceptual or theoretical framework. And if you don't know what this is, refer to step 5 of my video, 9 Steps for Creating a Literature Review Paper. You note the topic and thematic headings. And finally, note any parameters that are placed around the topic regarding its range and scope. This could be geographical or temporal limits. It could be a focus on a particular cultural or ethnic group. It could be a particular environment. And you want to summarize the content. So this could be key ideas, insights, conclusions, research findings, results, evidence, arguments, claims, etc. Lastly, you evaluate. This means that you give an opinion of the resource in relation to the broader field of study and your own work. So you analyze, assess, and critique the resource. You might think about its contributions, importance, timeliness, relationship to other works in the field, and unique elements. You might also critique the quality of the work. Are there undeclared assumptions and biases? Did it serve its intended purpose? You might note any issues regarding consistency, comprehensiveness, coherence, thoroughness of the argument or research results, or gaps that were not acknowledged. Now keep in mind that in an annotation, you're not presenting a full assessment of the work. You just want to make a comment or two to help you understand its benefits and its limitations. Finally, you want to reflect on the relevance of this resource to your own work. So how might this source inform the work that you intend to do? What value does it add to your work? How might you use it? Here are some ideas to consider. So here's a graphic summary of what we've been talking about. This is a lot to pack into 150 to 250 words, but it is doable. You do need to make some tough judgments on the information that will be included. Not everything that I've mentioned will be relevant to every resource or to every reader. But making these decisions does become easier with practice and as you become more familiar with your area of study and your own work. You also need to write in a very focused and compressed way. There are no extraneous words in an annotation. So sentences can convey more than one point, and you want to look for ways to make suitable links. So for example, you could put the author's professional situation, geographical location, time period, and field of study into a single sentence. This is what it might look like. So creating annotations might seem like a bit of a drag, but I actually find it really satisfying and empowering because when I am done annotating my bibliography, I have such a good grasp of my resources, both individually and collectively, and this really helps me frame my own work. So try it out and let me know what you think.